We want to spend Christmas quietly with our in-laws. That was the text my daughter sent me after 30 years of sacrifice support and unconditional love. No apology, no explanation, just rejection. So I replied, "Enjoy yourselves." What she didn't know was that I had already invited everyone else to my brand new villa. The food was served, the wine was flowing, the fireplace crackling, and the room was filled with laughter. Then the door burst open. She stormed in, saw the party in full swing, and did something that would change our family forever. In that moment, I didn't feel shame. I felt clarity. She had just made the biggest mistake of her life. What happens when a parent finally stops being a wallet and starts being a person? Would you have done what I did? Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. We bring you new stories every day. Hit like and let us know what city you're watching from in the comments. My phone buzzed against the granite countertop. I set down my coffee mug and glanced at the screen. Brianna, a smile tugged at my lips. My daughter finally responding about Christmas dinner plans. The words hit me like a physical blow. We want to sit quietly for Christmas with the in-laws. I read it again, then again. The morning sunlight streaming through my kitchen windows seemed to mock the darkness that had just invaded my perfectly planned retirement. My grip tightened on the phone until my knuckles went white. 30 years, 30 goddamn years of being there for every crisis, every need, every want. The memories flooded back with brutal clarity. Her college tuition at Emory, $60,000 a year when she changed majors 3 times. Daddy. I really think psychology is my calling now. Then communications, then business. I paid every bill without complaint. The wedding to Cody. My contribution alone was $45,000. We want it to be perfect, Dad. It is a once-in-a-lifetime day. I watched her dance in a dress that costs more than most people's cars, while Cody's family contributed their blessing and a fruit tray. The house down payment last year, another $80,000. We found the perfect place, Daddy. The neighborhood is amazing for when we have kids. Kids that never came, but the payments to me never stopped. Every phone call started the same way. Dad, I hate to ask, but yet she never hated it enough to stop asking. Car repairs, credit card debt, vacation funds, home renovations, the list stretched back decades. And I gave, always gave. I walked to the window overlooking my landscaped garden. This villa purchased just last month for $2.8 million was supposed to be my reward, my sanctuary, the place where I would finally host Christmas dinner in style, where my family would see what their father had built through decades of smart investments and careful planning. The cryptocurrency portfolio that made me wealthy while others called it gambling. The tech startup investments that paid off when others said I was too old to understand the market. The consulting business that thrived because I never lost my edge. But none of that mattered to Brianna. I was just a bank account with a heartbeat. Sit quietly with the in-laws. Translation: your money is welcome, but you are not. The hurt transformed into something colder, sharper. I had spent enough years being taken for granted. Time to show them what Christmas looked like when people actually wanted to be there. I pulled up my contacts and scrolled to Robert's number. My brother had always seen through Brianna's manipulations, though he had held his tongue for my sake. Not anymore. I scrolled through my contacts and found Robert's number first. The phone rang twice before his familiar growly voice answered. David, perfect timing. I was just thinking about Christmas plans. Robert, I need to ask you something. I kept my voice steady, controlled. Are you and Sarah free for Christmas dinner I am hosting at the villa? Hell yes. Sarah has been dying to see your new place. What brought this on? I thought you were going to Brianna's. I glanced at the SMS still glowing on my phone screen. Change of plans. She is sitting quietly with the in-laws. The silence stretched for several heartbeats. Then Robert's voice came back sharp with anger. That ungrateful little Brianna. You are right. But damn it, David, how long are you going to let her treat you like an ATM? Not anymore. The words felt foreign on my tongue, but right. Will you call Mark and Janet? Tell them they are invited too. And the Hendersons if they are in town. Consider it done. You know what? This is going to be the best Christmas dinner you have ever hosted. People who actually appreciate what you have done for them. After I hung up, I walked through my empty villa with new eyes. The formal dining room that could seat 12. The chef's kitchen with its double ovens and warming drawers. The entertainment room with its massive fireplace and panoramic windows. This was not just a house. It was a statement, and it was time to make it. The next call went to Tom Richardson, my former business partner who had helped broker the Samsung deal that netted me 7 figures. Then Patricia Webb, who had been there when my startup went public. People who had witnessed my successes, not just my checkbook. Tom Richardson speaking. Tom, it is David Collins. I hope I am not catching you at a bad time. David, never a bad time for you. What is up? I explained the situation briefly. Christmas dinner at my place. Close friends only. December 23rd at 6. Tom's enthusiasm was immediate and genuine. Are you kidding, Linda? And I have been hoping for an invitation to see the famous villa. She is still talking about the housewarming photos you sent. Count us in. Absolutely. Each conversation reinforced what I had forgotten. I had friends, real ones, people who valued my company, not my contributions to their bank accounts. I moved from the kitchen to my home office, pulling out a yellow legal pad to organize the menu. Prime rib, I would order it from Morton's. Roasted vegetables, twice-baked potatoes, Caesar salad, and Patricia's famous tiramisu if she agreed to bring it. Wine from my cellar, the 2018 Cassis Cabernet I had been saving for a special occasion, disqualified. In the living room, I rearranged the furniture to create better conversation areas. The leather sectional angled toward the fireplace. Additional seating pulled in from the formal living room. The villa's open floor plan was perfect for entertaining something I had in mind when I bought it, though I had pictured different guests. By 4 o'clock, the catering order was placed. The house was ready, and my guest list was solid. 10 people who would appreciate both the food and the company. 10 people who saw me as more than a funding source. The afternoon had transformed my empty villa into something alive with possibility. Tomorrow night, this house would be everything I had envisioned when I bought it. The doorbell would ring tomorrow with my first guest. The doorbell chimed at exactly 6 o'clock. Through the foyer windows, I could see Robert's familiar silhouette holding a bottle of wine and Sarah beside him with what looked like a covered dish. I opened the door to my brother's broad grin and Sarah's immediate gasp of appreciation. Jesus, David. Robert stepped inside and looked around the 2-story entryway with its curved staircase and crystal chandelier. Photos do not do this place justice. Sarah was already moving through the space, her eyes taking in every detail. The millwork alone must have cost a fortune. And these windows, she gestured toward the floor, to ceiling glass overlooking the gardens. It is like something out of Architectural Digest. Before I could respond, car doors slammed in the driveway. Tom and Linda Richardson emerged from their BMW, followed immediately by the Hendersons' Mercedes. Within minutes, my foyer was filled with warm greetings, code exchanges, and genuine excitement. David, this is incredible. Linda Richardson turned in a slow circle, taking in the space. When you said you had bought a place, I pictured something nice. This is magnificent. The words hit differently than they would have coming from Brianna. These people were not calculating what it cost or wondering what they could get from me. They were simply happy for my success. I led the group through the main living area, pointing out features I had chosen carefully. The imported marble fireplace, the custom built-ins, the professional-grade sound system. Each detail drew authentic appreciation. You have really made it, have you not? Mark Henderson clapped me on the shoulder. All those years of smart investing finally paying off. Patricia Webb arrived fashionably late with her promised tiramisu and immediately began documenting everything with her phone. David, you have to let me post some photos. This place is stunning, and you look so happy. I found myself nodding. Why not? I had worked hard for this success. I deserved to share it with people who celebrated my achievements rather than resenting them. The evening flowed naturally from cocktails in the living room to dinner in the formal dining room. The prime rib was perfect, the wine exceptional, and the conversation moved effortlessly between shared memories, current projects, and future plans. Remember when you first told us about investing in Bitcoin, Tom raised his glass toward me. We all thought you had lost your mind. Some of us, Linda corrected with a laugh. I told Tom we should follow David's lead, but he was too scared. Best decision you ever ignored me on, Tom admitted. Look where it got him. I felt the warmth of genuine respect, something I had forgotten existed. These were not people who saw me as a resource to be tapped. They were friends celebrating a friend's success. Robert stood for an impromptu toast to my brother David, who never lost faith in himself even when the rest of us could not see the vision, and to this beautiful home where we are finally getting the Christmas celebration he deserves. The glasses clinked, the laughter continued, and for the first time in years, I felt truly valued. Patricia had been taking photos throughout the evening. Candid shots of conversations, group photos by the fireplace, artistic shots of the dinner table. These are going straight to Facebook, she announced. Everyone needs to see how beautiful this turned out. I did not object. Let the world see what success looked like when it was shared with the right people. The party was hitting its stride when my phone began buzzing insistently against my leg. I glanced at the screen through my pocket and felt a familiar tightness in my chest. Brianna. I excused myself from the conversation and moved toward my home office, the sound of laughter and clinking glasses following me down the hall. I stepped into my office and closed the door before answering. "Hello, Brianna. What the hell is this?" Her voice was sharp, angry. No greeting, no pleasantries. "Patricia Webb just posted photos of some party at your house with Robert and everyone." I leaned against my desk, processing her tone. She had seen the social media posts. "It is Christmas dinner. You said you wanted to sit quietly with the in-laws." I never said that. The denial was so immediate, so defensive, that I almost laughed. "Would you like me to read your text message back to you, Silence?" "Then that is not what I meant. We want to sit quietly for Christmas with the in-laws." I read the exact words from my phone screen. What part of that was unclear? "You are being deliberately obtuse." You knew what I meant. Actually, I did not. I thought it meant you wanted a quiet Christmas with Cody's family instead of coming to see your father, so I made other plans. Her breathing was audible through the phone, quick and frustrated. "You went behind my back. You invited everyone except us. I invited people who wanted to spend Christmas with me. You specifically said you did not." Where did this house even come from? The question came out in a rush, revealing what was really bothering her. How can you afford a place like this? Where did this money come from? There it was. Not hurt about being excluded from Christmas dinner. Shock about wealth she did not know existed. Money she could not control. "I have been successful, Brianna. More successful than you realized, apparently. Successful how you never told me about any house purchase about having this kind of money." I felt something shift inside me, a cold clarity I had not experienced in years. "I do not owe you a financial report. I am a grown man who made good investments and built a successful consulting business. This house is the result of 30 years of hard work. But Dad, no." The word came out sharper than I had intended. I will not be guilted for celebrating with people who appreciate me. I will not apologize for having success you did not know about. And I will not pretend that your text message meant anything other than what it clearly stated. The silence stretched between us, filled with years of unspoken resentment, finally finding voice. "You are being spiteful," she said finally. "This is because I cannot come to dinner one time. This is because for 30 years I have been nothing more than a bank account to you, because every conversation starts with what you need from me, never with what you can give back, because you take my support for granted while showing me no respect." That is not true. When was the last time you called just to see how I was doing? When was the last time you showed interest in my life that did not involve what I could provide for yours? Another silence. Longer this time. I have friends here tonight who are genuinely happy for my success, who celebrate my achievements instead of calculating what they can get from them. This is what Christmas looks like when people actually want to be here. You cannot just exclude family because you excluded yourself. My voice was calm, now steady. "You made your choice. I made mine. This is not over, Dad." The threat in her voice was unmistakable. "You cannot just cut us out because you are having some kind of midlife crisis." The line went dead. I stood in the quiet of my office phone, still in my hand, processing what had just happened. Through the closed door, I could hear the continued sound of celebration, genuine laughter, animated conversation, the clink of glasses raised in authentic joy. For the first time in 30 years, I had drawn a line, and it felt exactly right. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and opened the office door, ready to rejoin people who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. But as I reached for the door handle, her words echoed in the quiet office. "This is not over, Dad." The threat carried weight I could not ignore. Was I being too harsh? Too final? I stood frozen for a moment, phone heavy in my pocket like a stone of guilt. 30 years of fatherhood do not evaporate with one confrontation. I remembered teaching her to ride a bike, helping with homework, walking her down the aisle. That little girl had grown into someone I barely recognized. The sound of laughter filtered through the door, genuine, warm, uncomplicated. I straightened my shirt, checked my reflection in the window, and took a deep breath. Whatever came next, I would not let Brianna's drama destroy what I had built tonight. I opened the door and stepped back into the warmth of celebration. The contrast hit me immediately. The cold isolation of conflict versus this atmosphere of authentic connection. Robert noticed me first. His expression shifted from jovial host to concerned brother in seconds. "David, everything okay?" I nodded toward the kitchen, and he followed me away from the other guests. The hum of conversation provided enough cover for privacy. "She called," I said simply. Robert's jaw tightened. "What did she say?" "She saw Patricia's photos on Facebook, accused me of going behind her back, wanted to know where the money for this place came from." I leaned against the granite counter where this morning had started. She denied ever saying she wanted a quiet Christmas. "Of course she did." Robert's voice carried decades of frustrated observation. "David, you have enabled this behavior for 30 years. She is not angry about Christmas. She is angry about losing control. But what if I am wrong? What if stop?" Robert gripped my shoulder. "She hung up on you, did she not?" After making threats, I nodded. That is not how someone responds when they want to resolve a conflict. That is how someone responds when their manipulation tactics fail. Tom Richardson appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Sorry to interrupt, but we could not help noticing you looked stressed. Everything all right?" Before I could deflect, Robert answered family drama. "David's daughter is upset he is hosting Christmas dinner instead of catering to her demands." Tom's expression darkened with recognition. The entitled offspring syndrome. Linda and I dealt with something similar with her brother, 45 years old, and still expected us to fund his lifestyle. "What did you do?" I asked, cut him off completely. "Best decision we ever made." Tom's voice was matter of fact. He threw a tantrum, threatened to never speak to us again, the whole performance. 6 months later, he was back with a job and an apology. Linda joined us, drawn by the serious tone. "Are we talking about family boundary issues? Because I have opinions on that subject." The conversation grew naturally as other guests drifted toward the kitchen. Each person shared similar experiences. Adult children who took advantage, siblings who demanded support without reciprocation, parents who used guilt as currency. The hardest part, Patricia said, is accepting that love does not mean enabling. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. Mark Henderson nodded. "My father used to say, respect is not inherited, it is earned. Applies to family just as much as anyone else." I felt something loosening in my chest. These were not strangers offering platitudes. These were friends who had watched me be taken for granted for years, who had seen the pattern I had been too close to recognize. "You do not owe anyone your dignity," Robert said quietly, "not even your daughter." As the evening progressed, the earlier tension dissolved into renewed celebration. The conversation moved to lighter topics, but the support remained wrapping around me like a safety net I had not realized I needed. Around 10 o'clock, I was refilling wine glasses when I heard something outside. Car doors slamming, heavy footsteps on gravel. I glanced toward the front windows, but saw only darkness beyond the landscape lighting. "Probably the Johnsons coming home late," Sarah suggested when she noticed my distraction. I nodded and returned to hosting, but the sound nagged at me. The footsteps had been too deliberate, too angry for casual neighbors. The pounding started 20 minutes later, not knocking, not ringing the doorbell. Violent, aggressive hammering that made the solid oak door shudder in its frame. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Wine glasses froze halfway to lips. Every face in the room turned toward the front entrance with identical expressions of shock. "Open this door right now." Brianna's voice cut through the night air like a blade. "I know you are in there." My stomach dropped. She had actually come here, actually driven across town to create a scene in front of my guests. The pounding resumed harder now. Bang, bang, bang. Brianna, lower your voice, I called through the door, moving toward it with measured steps. We can discuss this civilly. Do not tell me what to do. Her shriek made several guests wince. This is ridiculous. You cannot just exclude family because you are having some kind of midlife crisis. Cody's weaker voice joined hers. Come on, David, just open up. We can work this out. I looked back at my guest friends who had come for a peaceful Christmas dinner and found themselves witnessing a family meltdown. Their faces showed everything from embarrassment to anger on my behalf. I am sorry about this, I said to the room. Robert stepped forward. Do not apologize. You are not responsible for her behavior. The pounding intensified. My neighbors would hear this. The whole street would know about the Collins family drama by morning. I reached for the deadbolt, knowing I had to end this before it escalated further. The moment the lock clicked, the door flew open with enough force to bang against the wall. Brianna stormed in like a hurricane, Cody trailing behind her with the expression of a man who had lost all control of his life. How dare you? She pointed a shaking finger at me while scanning the room full of my guests. How dare you throw some party and exclude your own daughter? The living room fell silent except for the tick of the mantel clock. 10 pairs of eyes watched my 32-year-old daughter throw a tantrum worthy of a toddler. Brianna, you are making a scene. I do not care. She whirled around, taking in the villa's elegant furnishings, the crystal stemware, the obvious expense of everything around her. Where did all this come from? How long have you been hiding money from me? Patricia stepped forward slightly, phone in hand. Excuse me, but this is a private dinner party. You are being incredibly rude. Brianna's attention snapped to her. You are the one posting pictures on Facebook. This is all your fault. I posted pictures of a beautiful home and a lovely evening with friends, Patricia replied calmly. Nothing inappropriate about that. It was inappropriate because I was not invited. You declined, I said quietly in writing. That is not what I meant, and you know it. The absurdity of the situation was becoming clear to everyone in the room. Here was a grown woman furious that her father had celebrated Christmas with people who actually wanted to be there. Tom Richardson's voice cut through the chaos. Ma'am, you need to calm down. This is completely unacceptable behavior. Do not tell me what is acceptable. Brianna spun toward him. This is between me and my father, not anymore. It is not, Robert said, his voice carrying warning. You have made it everyone's business by barging in here and screaming. Cody finally found his voice. Maybe we should just go home. Have you ever faced a family conflict that exploded in public like this? Share your feelings or a similar situation in the comments. And comment number 1, if you understand the father's struggle. And no, Brianna silenced him with a look. I am not leaving until this gets resolved. She pulled out her phone, fingers moving rapidly across the screen. What are you doing? I asked. She looked up with a smile that chilled me. Calling the police. If you will not listen to reason, maybe they will make you understand. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. My guests, successful, respectable people who had done nothing but accept a dinner invitation, stared in disbelief. The police. Linda's voice was incredulous. For what? For this, Brianna gestured wildly around the room. For stealing family Christmas, for hiding assets, for elder abuse. The last accusation hung in the air like poison. I watched my daughter's phone pressed to her ear, preparing to weaponize law enforcement because her father had dared to celebrate Christmas without her permission. The sirens grew louder as they approached my quiet neighborhood. Red and blue lights began flashing through the villa's windows, casting an eerie glow across my guests' shocked faces. 2 officers emerged from the patrol car, a veteran sergeant with graying temples and a younger officer carrying a tablet. They approached the door with professional neutrality, though I caught them glancing around at the obviously peaceful suburban setting. Good evening, the sergeant said when I opened the door. We received a complaint about excessive noise and possible domestic disturbance. I am Sergeant Martinez. This is Officer Norman. Brianna pushed forward before I could respond. Yes, thank you for coming. They are having this loud party and completely harassing me. Sergeant Martinez's experienced eyes took in the scene. A well-dressed group of adults holding wine glasses, soft jazz playing in the background, no evidence of excessive noise or disturbance. "Ma'am, can you step outside, please, sir? Is this your residence?" "Yes, it is." I kept my voice calm and respectful. "This is a quiet dinner party with family and friends." The sergeant nodded to his partner, who began taking notes. "How many people are inside? 10 guests total. We have been having Christmas dinner." "The noise level seems quite reasonable now," Officer Norman observed, glancing at his watch. "Nearly 11 o'clock at night, and I can barely hear conversation from out here." Brianna's voice rose frantically. It was much louder earlier. They were being completely inappropriate for a residential area. "Ma'am, what is your relationship to the homeowner?" Sergeant Martinez asked. "He is my father, and he has been excluding me from family events. This is elder abuse." The accusation hung in the air like a toxic cloud. I felt my guest's sharp intake of breath behind me. "Sir, do you feel you are being abused or threatened in any way?" the sergeant asked me directly. "No, officer. I am hosting a voluntary gathering of friends and family in my own home." Robert stepped forward. "Officers, I am David's brother. My daughter received a text message this morning saying she wanted a quiet Christmas with the in-laws instead of joining family. So David invited people who actually wanted to celebrate with him." "You have this text message?" Officer Norman asked. Robert pulled out his phone and showed them the SMS thread David had forwarded to him earlier. Sergeant Martinez read it carefully. "So you declined the invitation in writing?" "Ma'am, that is not what I meant." Brianna's voice cracked with frustration. "He completely misunderstood. The message seems pretty clear," Officer Norman said diplomatically. Cody finally spoke up, his voice weak and uncomfortable. "Maybe we should just go home and sort this out privately." "No," Brianna spun on him. "They need to understand this is inappropriate." Tom Richardson approached from inside. "Officers, I am sorry you were called out for this. We have been having a perfectly quiet evening. Most of us are in our 60s and 70s. Hardly a rowdy crowd." The sergeant's expression suggested he was reaching the same conclusion. "Sir, have any neighbors complained about noise?" "Not that I am aware of," I replied. "We have not received any other calls about this address tonight." Officer Norman confirmed, checking his tablet. "How did you know about this gathering, ma'am, Sergeant Martinez?" asked Brianna. "I saw photos on Facebook." The officers exchanged a look that spoke volumes about their assessment of the situation. "Ma'am, you called in a noise complaint about an event you learned about through social media." Brianna's face flushed red. "It is the principal. This is harassment." "Sir," the sergeant addressed me, "you have every right to entertain guests on your own property, provided you are not violating the noise ordinances. From what we can observe, you are well within reasonable limits." "What about the elder abuse?" Brianna demanded desperately. Sergeant Martinez looked at me with professional assessment. "Sir, do you have any concerns about your safety or well-being? Are you being coerced or threatened in any way?" "Only by the person who called you," I replied quietly. The officer's slight nod indicated he understood the real dynamics at play. "Ma'am, filing false reports is a serious matter. We are going to need you to move your vehicle, which is blocking the driveway, and allow these people to conclude their evening peacefully." Brianna stared at him in shock, her manipulation having spectacularly backfired. "This is not over," she said to me, her voice carrying less conviction than before. The officers returned to their patrol car, and I watched their red and blue lights disappear into the night. Brianna stood on my doorstep, deflated and humiliated. The police dismissal had shattered her confidence, leaving her looking smaller, somehow more vulnerable than I had seen her in years. Cody shifted uncomfortably beside her, clearly wishing he were anywhere else. "Brianna," I said quietly, "would you like to come in and talk privately?" She looked up with surprise, hope flickering in her eyes. Maybe she thought the police intervention had broken through my resolve. I led her to my home office while Robert shepherded the guests back toward the living room, giving us space for what needed to be said. Cody remained in the foyer, studying his shoes like they held the secrets of the universe. "Dad," Brianna began the moment I closed the office door, "I need you to understand something." I settled into my desk chair and waited. I never meant for things to go this far. "The text message, I did not mean it the way you interpreted it. Help me understand what you did mean then." She paced in front of my bookshelf, gesturing as she spoke. "I meant we wanted a quiet Christmas morning with Cody's parents, but I always assumed we would see you later for dinner or something. You never mentioned dinner. You never asked about my plans. I thought it was understood." We always worked something out. I leaned back, studying my daughter's face. Brianna, when was the last time you called me just to see how I was doing? Not because you needed something, but just to talk. She stopped pacing. That is not fair. It is a simple question. The silence stretched between us, filled with 30 years of unexamined assumptions. You are twisting this around, she said, finally making it about something it is not. What is it about then? It is about you having this beautiful house that I never knew existed. It is about you having money you never told me about. How long have you been hiding this from me? There it was, the real issue. Not Christmas dinner, not family traditions. Control, access, the fear of losing her personal ATM. I have not been hiding anything, Brianna. I have been successful. More successful than you realized, apparently. But why did you not tell me I am your daughter? Do I owe you a financial report every month? Are my investments subject to your approval? Her face flushed. That is not what I mean. Then what do you mean? I mean, I need to know you will still be there for me, that nothing has changed. I felt something break inside my chest. After everything, the text message, the confrontation, the police call, she was still trying to manipulate me into maintaining the status quo. What if things have changed? Brianna, her eyes widened. What do you mean? What if I am tired of being treated like a bank account? What if I want a relationship with my daughter that is not based on what I can provide? You are being dramatic. I do not treat you like a bank account. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through our text history. Your last 10 messages to me. Dad, can you help with the car payment? Dad, we need help with the roof repair. Dad, Cody is between jobs again. When was the last time you texted to ask how I was feeling? To share good news? To just say, hello? She stared at the phone screen, her mouth working soundlessly. I love you, Brianna. I always will. But I will not continue enabling a relationship that only flows in one direction. You cannot just cut me off. I am not cutting you off. I am asking for mutual respect. Her expression hardened. This is because of Robert, is it not? He has always been jealous of our relationship. I stood up, feeling the weight of finality settling over me. This is because I finally realized I deserve better than being taken for granted. She began to cry then, but even her tears felt calculated, designed to manipulate rather than express genuine emotion. Please, Dad, do not do this. I need you. You need my money. There is a difference. I walked toward the door, ready to return to my guests, people who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. Behind me, I heard her whisper, "This is not over." But looking at my reflection in the office window, I realized it was. I walked back toward the living room, my decision crystallized like ice in my veins. Behind me, I heard Brianna's heels clicking frantically across the hardwood as she followed. The moment we entered the main room, she launched her attack. I need everyone to understand something she announced, loudly positioning herself in the center of my guests. My father has been hiding money from our family for years. Money that should have been disclosed. The room fell silent. 10 pairs of eyes shifted between us, watching this desperate performance with growing discomfort. Brianna, I began. No. She spun to face Tom Richardson. Did you know he bought this house without telling his own daughter $2.8 million? Where do you think that money came from? Tom's eyebrows rose. From his investments and hard work, I imagine. Same place my money comes from. You do not understand. He has been manipulating financial records, hiding assets. That is enough. Robert stepped forward, his voice carrying warning. You are making accusations you cannot support. I can support them. He has been stealing from family accounts to fund this lifestyle. Patricia laughed. Actually laughed. Brianna, your father showed us his portfolio 3 years ago when he was considering retiring. Every penny came from legitimate investments he made decades before you were born. She is right. Mark added, David, did you not get into Bitcoin when it was under $100? I nodded. Purchased my first coins in 2011. And the tech startup investments, Linda prompted. Multiple companies starting in 2015. 3 went public. 2 were acquired. Brianna's face flushed as the mathematical reality hit the room. My wealth was not mysterious or stolen. It was well documented and witnessed by people who had known me for decades. But he never told me she protested. Why would he? Sarah spoke for the first time, her voice cutting. You have never shown interest in his life unless you needed something from him. The brutal truth hung in the air. Even Cody shifted uncomfortably, finally understanding how his wife appeared to others. That is not true. Brianna's voice cracked. I have always cared about my father. When Robert challenged, when was the last time you called to ask about his health, his happiness, his plans? Silence. When was the last time you invited him to your house for dinner? Patricia added. More silence. When was the last time you celebrated one of his achievements without calculating what you could get from it? Tom's question landed like a physical blow. Brianna looked around the room, seeing her isolation complete. Even her husband could not meet her eyes. You do not understand our relationship, she whispered desperately. We understand it perfectly, I said quietly. And that is the problem. I took a breath, feeling the weight of 30 years lifting from my shoulders. I want you both to leave my home and never return. The words dropped into absolute silence. Brianna stared at me as if I had spoken in a foreign language. You cannot be serious. I have never been more serious about anything in my life. Brianna's eyes widened with genuine shock. Dad, you cannot mean that. I am your daughter. You are a woman who has used me for 30 years without offering anything in return. Being my daughter does not entitle you to unlimited access to my resources or unlimited tolerance for disrespect. I walked toward the foyer, expecting them to follow. When they did not move, I turned back. I said, leave. This is insane. Brianna's voice rose to near hysteria. You are destroying our family over nothing. Over nothing, Robert's voice carried incredulous anger. You called the police on your own father for hosting a dinner party. You accused him of elder abuse in front of officers, Patricia added. You barged into his home uninvited and attacked him publicly. Tom's disgust was obvious. Each statement hit like a hammer blow. Brianna looked around the room, desperately seeking any supportive face. Cody, tell them this is wrong. Her husband looked at her for a long moment, then at me. Brianna, we should go. You too. Her voice broke. You are taking his side too. I am not taking sides. I am recognizing reality. Cody's voice was tired, defeated. He is right, Bree. We both know he is right. I moved to the front door and opened it. The December night air rushed in cold and clean. I have spent 30 years enabling behavior that hurt both of us, I said calmly. I will not spend what time I have left being treated like a bank account with a heartbeat. I will change. Brianna's voice turned pleading. I promise I will be different. I will show more appreciation. I will call more often. You had 30 years to change, Brianna. Tonight proved you cannot. But I am your daughter, and I am a human being who deserves basic respect, something you have never been able to provide. She looked around the room. One final time, seeing nothing but stone faces and disappointed shakes of heads. You will regret this, she said, her voice hardening. All of you will regret taking his side when you see what kind of man he really is. We already know what kind of man he is, Sarah said firmly. We have known for decades. That is why we are here. Robert moved to stand beside me at the open door. Brianna, you need to leave now. She walked toward the exit with Cody trailing behind her, his shoulders slumped in embarrassment. At the threshold, she turned back one final time. This is not over, Dad. I will not let you cut me out of your life like this. Yes, I said quietly. It is over, and you cut yourself out the moment you chose manipulation over love. I closed the door behind them and turned the deadbolt with a decisive click. The sound of their cars starting and pulling away felt like the end of one life and the beginning of another. Behind me, I heard the quiet murmur of my friends, my real family resuming their celebration. For the first time in 30 years, my home was filled only with people who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. I had finally learned the difference between being used and being loved, and it felt like freedom. I stood in my foyer for a moment, my hands still on the deadbolt, processing the magnitude of what had just happened. 30 years of enabling, 30 years of walking on eggshells, 30 years of being treated like a resource rather than a person. Over the weight I had carried for so long lifted from my shoulders like morning fog clearing from the mountains. When I turned back toward the living room, I found my friends waiting with expressions of pride and admiration. I had not seen that directed at me in years. David, Patricia said quietly, "That took incredible courage." Tom Richardson stood and began to clap slowly. One by one, the others joined him until the room filled with genuine applause. Not for a performance, but for a man who had finally chosen to respect himself. "You handled that with more grace than she deserved," Linda added. Robert stepped forward and embraced me, his voice thick with emotion. "I have been waiting 30 years for you to do that. I am so proud of you." The validation hit me like a wave. These people, my real family, had witnessed everything and stood by me. They had seen Brianna's true nature and David's transformation, and they celebrated justice being served. Sarah raised her wine glass. "To David Collins, a man who chose dignity over guilt and peace over chaos." "To authentic relationships," Mark added. "To knowing your worth," Patricia chimed in. We drank, and I felt something I had not experienced in decades, the pure joy of being valued for who I was, not what I could provide. Robert pulled me aside while the others continued celebrating. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Free," I said without hesitation. "For the first time in my adult life, I feel completely free." "You are not losing a daughter tonight, David. You're gaining your life back." He was right. The woman who had just left was not the little girl I had taught to ride a bike. That girl had been replaced by someone who saw me only as a source of funding for her lifestyle. She made her choice 30 years ago. Robert continued, "Tonight, you finally made yours." Linda approached us. "David, I want to apologize." "For what?" "For all the times over the years when I wanted to say something about how she treated you, but held my tongue." "We all saw it. We all knew you deserved better." Tom nodded. "We should have spoken up sooner. But tonight, watching you stand up for yourself, that was beautiful to witness." The conversation gradually turned to the future, without toxic family dynamics poisoning every holiday. What would Christmas look like next year? What about New Year's Eve, my birthday? "You should host New Year's here," Sarah suggested. "A celebration of new beginnings." "I would love that." I realized I meant it. All of you here bringing in 2025 together, and your birthday in March, Patricia added. "A proper celebration for a man who deserves to be celebrated." For the first time in years, I felt excited about future gatherings. No more walking on eggshells wondering what mood someone would be in or what demand would come next. Just authentic relationships built on mutual respect and genuine affection. "I cannot believe I actually did it," I said almost to myself. "Believe it," Robert said firmly. "You chose yourself tonight. You chose peace." Around 2:30 in the morning, people began gathering their coats. The evening had been emotionally intense, and dawn was not far away. "Thank you," I said to each person as they prepared to leave, for witnessing this, for supporting me, for being my real family. The hugs were warmer, longer than usual. These were not just social obligations. These were bonds forged in truth and strengthened by justice. As the last car pulled out of my driveway, I walked back into my villa, truly my sanctuary now. The house felt different, larger somehow, as if removing toxic energy had physically expanded the space. I walked through rooms that were finally completely mine. No guilt, no manipulation, no strings attached. In the kitchen where this journey had begun 18 hours ago, I made myself a cup of coffee and stood at the window overlooking my garden. The landscape lights still twinkled like stars, but now they illuminated possibility rather than just property. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. "Thank you for showing us what real courage looks like. Sweet dreams, my friend." Then Tom, "Your home will always be a place of love and respect. Sleep well, and Sarah, call us anytime. We are your real family now." Each message felt like a warm embrace, confirmation that I had made the right choice. I thought about my resources, the investments, the villa, the financial freedom I had worked decades to achieve. For the first time, it was truly mine to enjoy and share as I chose. No more guilt about not being fair to someone who had never shown fairness to me. I could travel now. Take that river cruise through Europe I had always wanted to experience. Visit the vineyards in Tuscany. Maybe take a cooking class in Paris. The world felt open in ways it had not since I was young. Or I could stay here and create the kind of home I had always dreamed of. One filled with laughter instead of tension, appreciation instead of demands, love instead of obligation. The eastern windows began to glow with the first hint of dawn. Christmas Eve was beginning, and for the first time in 30 years, I was genuinely excited about the holiday. No walking on eggshells, no careful gift selection to avoid criticism, no calculating how much money would be enough to keep peace. Just the simple pleasure of celebrating with people who wanted to celebrate with me. My phone rang. Robert checking on me. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "Better than I have felt in decades," I answered honestly. I keep waiting for the guilt to hit, but it is not coming. It will not. Guilt requires wrongdoing, and I did nothing wrong tonight except protect my dignity. I think I will spend Christmas Day alone, I said. Not lonely. Alone. There is a difference. There absolutely is. And you have earned the right to peaceful solitude. After we hung up, I stepped onto my terrace as the sun crested the horizon. The December air was crisp and clean, carrying the promise of new seasons ahead. At 63, I was finally beginning my authentic life. The years ahead stretched before me, filled with possibility rather than obligation, respect rather than exploitation, joy rather than guilt. I thought about calling that travel agent later today, maybe booking a trip to Ireland for St. Patrick's Day or Australia for their autumn. The freedom to make plans without consulting someone else's emotional calendar felt revolutionary. As the sunrise painted my villa in gold, I realized this was not just Christmas morning. It was the first day of my real life. I had chosen dignity over duty, peace over chaos, self-respect over family obligation. And it felt like coming home to myself after a lifetime of being a stranger in my own life. The best gift I had ever given myself was the courage to demand the respect I had spent 63 years earning. Christmas had finally come home. But more than that, I had come home to me. This story is not just mine. It is yours too. The details may be different, your name, your house, your holiday, but the feelings, the questions, the longing for something more, those are universal. Have you ever reached a moment like this where you finally chose your peace over someone else's expectations? When did you stop shrinking yourself to fit inside someone else's version of love? Please share your story in the comments. You never know who might need to read it. If this story resonated with you, consider liking it, sharing it with someone who might need it, and subscribing to the channel. Tap the notification bell if you want to hear more stories like this, stories that dare to say enough. Drop a comment below with "No more guilt" if you are ready to reclaim your life on your own terms. And if today is your day one, your first sunrise of peace, I want you to know you are not alone. I will see you in the next story. Until then, thank you for being here, and thank you for choosing yourself. Take care.